Hi everybody, welcome. I hope you all are well. Due to lockdown and due to this pandemic virus COVID-19, we all are feeling the PT condition. And I know you are in your home, and I wish you will remain in your home and you will not go out and stay healthy and keep yourself and keep your family well. And as you know, due to the lockdown, we are very much in trouble to teach you, and also you cannot come to our college, and our college is also closed due to this. And as a result, it is informed to us, and rather it is our responsibility to teach you by this online media. And as you are seeing me through that mobile phone, or you can see me in your laptop or anything else, this is because of our newly made YouTube channel. So this is our official YouTube channel, so it is our request to you, please do the subscribe of the channel. And I know as you are seeing me in this video, just write down below the video there is a red subscribe sign, so please tap there. Okay, it is very much mandatory because as you are our students, so it is a kind of registration so that you are our students and you can reach you whenever we upload any video, any lecture in it. So today in our discussion, that means especially in my discussion, I will teach you the topic which I was going through in the lecture in our colleges. I think nearly 1 or 2 classes I have taken, but in that cases, in those 2 classes, the attendance were very thin. I think as it was the beginning, so that's why many of you were not informed maybe. So whatever maybe, our classes will continue if that lockdown will not happen. So as it is scheduled that we should teach you through online, so today's lesson, that is today's topic, will be in your paper C3T, and the actual topic is that 18th century literature. So to discuss it, I think I should begin from the beginning actually. So actually I know the time period you have come across already, that is from 1700, or you can say 1700 to 1798. But if we try to trace the actual date of that age scenario, then we have to take granted that particular time, that is 1702, that year in which Queen Anne was ascended on the throne. And the age ended like that at the end when in 1798 with the publication of lyrical ballads by both William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So before going to that discussion, I think you should need to develop a firm idea about the history. I think you have the idea of Restoration, the year 1660. At the time, Charles II was the king. But after that, the newly king, James II, came into the throne. And you know, the personality of James II was very much absolute. He was very much moody, and he is hardcore a Catholic. And he was ruling the people who were actually Protestant. So there was a kind of gap between the common people, the parliament, and the king. As a result, people were very much perplexed, puzzled. They were feeling that they were in a mood of torture. So they need freedom. So at that particular point, the parliament decided to call the daughter of James II, Mary, and her husband William the Orange. So they came, and in 1688, the year, remember it was a very important date in our history of English literature. There was a war named Glorious War, or you can say Bloodless War. For the first time, it was a war. There was no bloodshed. James too fled from that city, from that England, and there was no fight. And Mary came and ascended the throne, and the people were happy, and the age of Queen Anne, where Queen Mary was going on. But unfortunately, Queen Mary died in the age of 1694. After that, her husband William the Orange was king. But in 1701, when he was died, the same kind of problem was there. England was suffering from the no king. So that's why the Spanish army were in a mood to attack the city, attack that England, and capture it. So at that particular point, the parliament called Queen Anne, and in 1702 she was ascended to the throne. So that's how the beginning of the age of 18th century is traced. If we talk more about the history of the kingship or monarchship, Queen Anne reigned for 12 years from 1702 to 1714, and after that his nephew, or you can say his cousin rather, George I came to the throne, and he reigned from 1714 to 1727, and after that King George II from 1727 to 1760, and after that George III, he reigned from 1760 onwards, and his reign will continue to 1820. So this is actually the historical map of the monarch of the that England at that particular time. After that, if we try to divide the age into the divisions, we will trace that the age may be of various opinions. According to some, it is that the age of Pope from 1702 to 1740, and after that from 1741 to 1780 it is called the age of Johnson, and after that from 1780 to 1798 as the period of French Revolution. And sometimes it is often divided like that. The first age is similar, that is the age of Pope, and latter is from 1740 to 1798 is called the age of Sensibility, and from there, that is from 1780 to 1798, for some people it is like that of a pre-romantic period. So that's how the literary period, that is the period of 18th century, has divided. Now let's discuss about the 18th century in proper manner. So let's begin. So here the 18th century is named with various names. First of all, the age of Augustus, or you can say Augustus age. So why does the 18th century literature is called Augustan age? Actually, the literature of the particular period was completely different from the prior age, that is Restoration and that is of Renaissance period. The writers of that particular period were very much bold, very much perfect, and they were in a mood to reform the literature which was going through the period. They observed that the Renaissance were the writers who gave emphasis on like that of imagination, and their poetry was like that common people's literature. So they thought that they need to develop a firm kind of literature which can be stated as a particular, having a definite statue. And after that, if you think about the literature of Restoration, it was a kind of vulgar literature. Even the stage was corrupted, and even adultery, even the case of immorality, having the like that of a cloud which was shrouding over the literature of England. So that's why there need a reform. And if you try to get it easier, just think of it. If any team has the captain, and the captain was very much a rule-minded captain, and he kept all the player with his red eyes. And just think of that, when the player retired from that position, from the captaincy, the new man will come. The new man may copy the player or the former captain, how he maintained the team and how he behaved with the player. If that new captain just started thinking that, no, I will do a new kind of captaincy, I will bring change, so it's up to him. So similarly in literature too, years after year, there were a new kind of change. There were a shifting that is called the transition. So in that transition, we find that 18th century is completely different from the previous Restoration and Elizabethan age. The writers of the age started imitating the writings and the subject matter of the European classical literature, and especially the classical literature of Rome and the writings of Horace Virgil. As they are starting imitating, so they often called themselves, and the age often called as the Augustus age. And for your kind information, Oliver Goldsmith, one of the writers of that particular age, called the age as the Augustus age. And then after that, 18th century is also called New Classical Age. As you know, as the age of Emperor Augustus was the golden age of Roman Empire, similarly the 18th century is also seen as the golden period in the history of English literature. The writers of the 18th century imitated the literary form, themes of the original Augustan writers such as Virgil and Horace. But that writers, they were looking back to the ideals and art forms of classical times, and they were emphasizing even more than the Renaissance predecessors and then that of classical ideals of order and rational control. But the writers of the period, they more care about in form, that is, not for the weight of matter. They care only manner, for artistic and polish, but not for genuine poetic inspiration. The content, thought and feeling are subordinate to form. So they just did one thing. Just read out these lines, then you will get the actual idea at that point. Okay, so here what is discussed actually, that new classical writers, they do not do the actual thing what the actual Augustan writer did. They were just copying the form. If I am writing a drama and I am thinking of writing that drama in the form of what Shakespeare did, then I should follow the actual developing of plot, and then actually there is what in the content, and then other things like that of how many acts will be in my drama, how many scenes will be in my drama. Should I follow the classical order, that is unity of time, unity of action, unity of day? All will be my concern. But the writers of the 18th century, they do not do the actual thing, that is the core of the thing, that is the nucleus of the writing, what the Augustan writers did in classical period. They just simply copied the form, how to decode their work, how to furnish their work. They just copied the body, not the soul. So that's why the new classical age is called, that means 18th century is not called the second classical literature, Rather, it is called Neoclassical Age. After it, we will discuss that is the 18th century as the age of prose and reason. I think you have already come across the name, or you have already come across the idea of enlightenment. That movement, that enlightenment was there. And the enlightenment thinkers like that of in 18th century, such as Voltaire, Rousseau, they popularized that idea, and that is the idea of that age of prose and reason. Because Bacon, Locke, Thomas Hobbes were the important precursors of it. Enlightenment movement advocated specially the scientific rationalism and empirical knowledge. I think you know about the rationalism. That is talking about the judging about anything with logic and reason. And then the empirical knowledge. That means the knowledge which you gathered, you have to check it with your experience. That means if someone says that your cycle is broken, then you will not cry at that particular moment. You will go there and actually check whether your cycle is actually broken or not. And if your cycle is actually there without unhurting, without any injury, then if you try to if you cry there, it will be kind of a sheer kind of foolish kind of thing. So all the time the literature of the 18th century is thought to be like that of in empirical kind of thing. And actually it used reason, that means that enlightenment used reason to scrutinize previously accepted doctrines and many other traditions. In his famous essay, Immanuel Kant wrote a very key line, and that is, man living his self-caused immaturity is called enlightenment. That means that whenever a person tries to erase his own immaturity, that means when a person just having no idea what is actually a book or the actual objective of reading book, or the man having no idea about the educated person and uneducated person, then his judgment will be like that of judging everybody similar. Okay, but if that person is having the seat with an uneducated person, and the experience of that people, that man, and having the seat of with an educated person will be completely different. There will be some kind of knowledge. I think the example is getting more tougher. Just think of that story. Once, three friends went to a what can I say actually? Went to a swimming pool, and they sat beside it. Okay, and three of them were observing that a person was swimming in that particular swimming pool. The first of them, that means among the friends, seeing it, they thought that, oh, it is very difficult. I can't swim here. I can't take bath here. So he returned back. And the other two, and between them one, the middle person, said that it is very easy and it's a very childish work. So he just undressed himself and jumped into the swimming pool. And as a result, at once the person drowned. And then the third person, that means the third friend, he just actually observed everything. And then he started imagining that one friend, just returned to the actual room of actual they were situating due to the fear. And the second man, that is the second friend, without judging anything, without knowing how to swim, just jumped into the swimming pool, and as a result he drowned. The third person is also the similar kind of person. He did not know how to swim also. So to him, he just at that point thought that I will do the swimming, but before it I should know how to swim. So he went to that man who was swimming in that particular swimming pool and asked how you have got the practice, the habit of swimming here. Then the person instructed him that I am not here for the first time, that I am started swimming here and I get it. I just swam at a particular river, particular swimming pool rather, and she instructed to the swimming pool which was beside there. That was of lesser water. That means the water, the content of water was very low, so that nobody can sink there. So he instructed the person that to try the swimming actual habit of that blowing of hands and the legs, and then he will able to swim. So the third person went there and have the practice, and then came to that particular swimming pool, and he was become successful in swimming. So actually that is the actual enlightenment. The person did not impose upon himself the immaturity. He just leave his immaturity by gaining what to do, and that the immaturity was self-caused for the first friend and also the second friend. They did not try to shed their immaturity. The first person did it, that when he returned it due to his fear, and the second person kept his immaturity by his overconfident. Okay, so the in actual essay, that is in Immanuel Kant's essay, What is Enlightenment, he said that a person can enlighten himself, or you can say get the reason of, or you can say thinking power, if he leave his own self-caused immaturity. And then the age of prose and reason came from that. Actually, to talk that point, I have gone so much deeper. The 18th century is also known as an era of prose and reason, because the literature that was developed at that point roots deeply in that reason, that is in scientific reason. Okay, and that intellect, and that both of them came from that is from enlightenment. Okay, got it, that intellect and the reason. Thus it was characterized, that is the prose of that particular period is characterized as satirical. That is, most of the writings in 18th century were very much satirical. Okay, and after that they were also didactic. That means they are not of simply a flat matter. All the writings were having the purpose of teaching someone. So that's why it is called didactic. And simultaneously it is critical. That means they were in a mood to critically analyze. If someone writing something that is not done by his own imagination or something else, it should be judged by his intellectual and by the actual reason. That's why it is critical. Poetry in this era saw the decline. So the poetry which was in the Renaissance age, in the Elizabethan age, and after that it was in that of metaphysical poetry or some others, they were completely different from it. And here the poetry has most of the time seemed that it is prosaic. Okay, and the writer, that is Matthew Arnold, that person, Matthew Arnold, stated that 18th century was the age of prose and reason. So just remember the name, Matthew Arnold stated it. It is called that prose and reason because at that particular point no good poetry was written, and that's why the poetry was very much prosaic. And after that, the age is also called age of sensibility. And the very particular, at the beginning point of our lecture, we have talked that the later period, that went from 1750 to 1798, the age is called that age of sensibility. Why this sensibility? That is a kind of a feeling, that is a kind of emotion that evolved at a particular point, that when someone is very much sentimental about something, and that is a kind of combination of sentimentalism and a kind of sensibility. And if you try to get the actual actual scenario of that age of sensibility, then you have to keep in your mind two kind of drama which was prevalent at that particular point. Even it was in the form of novel too. And I think you have come across the name Pamela. And Pamela is the first novel. So in that novel, the writer Samuel Richardson put forward the central character Pamela in such a manner that she is very much pure, and she throughout the novel placed herself or experienced very much kind of an evil society, and in that society the people are also, the surrounding peoples were evil. So it's a kind of examination, it's a kind of test for her, that is for Pamela, to keep her virtue alive at the end. And if that woman, or if the person, if the protagonist may be a male person, if he becomes successful at the end, then his virtue will be celebrated. So it's a kind of work. So more kind of sentimentalism was there. And the most important thing that was also criticized by the latter writers like that of Oliver Goldsmith and R.B. Sheridan. They completely opposed such kind of things, and they, as a result, traced back, and for a revolt kind of thing, they started using the comedy of manners which was used in that Restoration period. So that's how the age of sensibility that is goes on. After that, we will talk about some key literary features of the age. 18th century is a very much significant age, where we have found the emergence of social essays like that of our periodicals and many other things. And after that, you have find that the age is also very much dominant due to the prose, and that prose was very much interlinked with the reason. And if we talk about more, then we have found that the age is called pseudo-classical. Pseudo-classical, that means that is not completely original, and that is a kind of artificial thing. And it was because the writers of the age started copying the forms, not the content. And after that, the dominance of satire. The particular genre, that is satire, is a very powerful matter or powerful thing in that particular period. Even it is called that our most significant writer Alexander Pope is a prime satire writer. It is a kind of belief, or it is a kind of saying that whenever Alexander Pope entered into the coffee house, all the people were very much worried that if Alexander Pope started staring at them and writing satire, then the era is very much famous for the rise of the novel. I think I have already talked about that, Samuel Richardson Pamela. Then, in that particular point, the dominance of heroic couplet was also there. And then, it is also very much dominant for the anti-sentimental and sentimental comedies. And for your more kind information, that the year is also very much famous for the town-centric literature. That means urbanization of literature was there, as the common people were very much energetic to read books, and there was a kind of a period that people were writing for the sake of money. Before it, people were writing because of their pastime. But for the first time in that age, we have found that the writers were writing for making money. So it's a kind of a new genretic literature. And even in all the houses, women were studying this literature. So all these are the key features of the age. Just write down all this in your notebook so that it can be used later by you. And then our contents, which we will be discussed in that video lecture, and after it in our next classes, there will be that major periodicals that was prevalent in 18th century. It's a mistake. It should not be tablet. It should be Tatler. 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 The Tatler. Okay, got it. And then we have the Spectator, the Rambler, the Idler. So all these are the 4 major periodicals. Then we will talk about the essays and biographies, and especially all these writers. Just write down the names of them in your copy. Okay, just pause the video and write down them. I'm just skipping it. Next, in the field of poetry, we have two separate genre, that is classicism and pre-romantics. That is a kind of actual division that seeming the first part and second part, that is from 1702 to 1740 or 50, and talking about that latter period. So that's why it's a kind of division. So that's why in the classicism these writers are very much famous. So just write down them. And in pre-romantic period, these writers. After that, we will go on with the prose satire. And in prose satire, we have these 9 writers, and they will be discussed later, as I have thought to be discussed them later. And then in the field of drama, these 3 are very important, so just keep it in your mind. And for your kind information, that in prose satire we will come across the fiction writer or novel writer. So now today I will not go further, but I will just give you the idea about that 4 major periodicals. The first periodicals, the Tatler, the publishing year, that means it published in 1709, and it continued till 1711. Okay, and the founder of that particular periodical was Richard Steele, and it's a kind of tri-weekly publication, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Just remember the dates on which the periodicals were published. Okay, the main motto or the aim of the paper is that it's a kind of a periodical where it publishes the news and gossip that housed in various London coffee houses. So this it's a kind of a mere gossiping kind of a thing, and that was done in London coffee houses. Okay, and after that is their they were representative of the Whiggish views. You know, Whig. Actually, there were 2 political parties. One is Whig and other was Tory. I know, actually, you have traced the point. When James II fled from that point, that is in 1688, and before the time when all the people were very much kind of angry against him, and they wanted to get rid of the king. So there evolved 2 kind of parties. One party is called Whig, who supported the parliaments. That means they are the free people. And on the other hand, there were Tories. Tories were the people who are in support of the royal people, that means royal king. The motto of these 2 parties were that Whigs thought that after the death of a king, there should not be the son or the cousin or the brother, that they should come to the throne and rule their party. So they are in opposition of it. On the other hand, Tories believe that the person of the royal family will hold the position of it. Okay, so just remember that the Tatler's motto is to gossiping, and even here something has been written, and all this writing were about criticizing the gentleman, and all this criticizing because of to teach them, to make them gentlemen. Okay, so that's the Tatler. The next, that is the Spectator. Spectator published in 1711 and it continued till 1712. And the founders of the periodical were two men, Joseph Edison and Richard Steele. And it is a kind of a daily publication. And here, each paper, that means each periodical, had approximately 2,500 lines, and they were absolutely long. And the periodical goes on with the 555 numbers, and its motto to enliven the morality with wit and to temper wit with morality. Okay, just think that the periodical was very much famous, and it is for teaching people, and teaching people not harshly, rather teaching very entertainingly. Okay, they just teach with laughter, and which is mixed with, that is, wit, with laughter. And you will come across in your syllabus to a piece named Sir Roger at Church, and it is a part of it. Just read out these lines if you have the time, and if you have the time, please copy it too. Next, the Rambler published later, and it was done by, or the founder of it is Samuel Johnson. Its publication year is that 1752, and it was a twice weekly publication. That means it was published in the week days like that, Tuesday and Saturday. It is a kind of similar days, just one missing date, that is the Thursday, and it is similar to that of the Tatler. Okay, and it was especially targeted to the middle class audience. Okay, and actually who were trying to create an economic alliance with that by marrying. Actually, it is a kind of a satire, and especially the targeted people are the middle classes people, who by giving the marriage to their girls or to their daughters to the boys of the highly aristocratic class, and by doing this they are in a mood to shifted themselves or try to uplifted themselves. So it's a kind of satire for them, and that's why the Rambler. And the next and the last here, the Idler. The Idler also published from 1750 to 1752, and the founders, of course, Samuel Johnson. And the publication times, oh, it's a kind of mistake. It should not be 2 day, rather it is a weekly. That means once in a week. Okay, so it's a kind of mistake. Just take the note of it. And the Idler is special about the kind of a lesson for the newly budding writers, how to write about how to write biographies, and also to entertain them. So that's all for today, and in our next literature we will try to give you, rather I will try to give you the lessons or the writings of the poets and also the satire writers, as well as the prose and the dramatist. Okay, so once again, stay at your home and stay safe, and do what the health instructors suggest you, and do not stop yourself or do not stagnate yourself. Rather try some different things. If you have time, just go to the story books, and also spend your time with your family members, and also be conscious about yourself and also others. Thank you.